Big schus tonight. Shem Shiva for calling, and we covered the Yartziet. We're going from Brevda from our community here, a big community and son, and this son is here to the Leib, the hisorerus, and the foreign his father going into the Brevda is a child, which is
First, I wanted to thank all those involved in putting the shir together. Some people I met in the street and they had certain phones that I didn't have and got ahead of Rabbi Trelid, and he was very instrumental in the shir should happen. They should all have big schusim, and some of them are sitting here. Hashem should help. They should have everything they need, and all the tefillah should be recorded. Today was my father's Yartziet, 13th Yartziet, and going around I see a lot of people that I know from him over the years. Some in Israel, some in Europe, some in South Africa, some over the phone, some Koroloshin. And I felt it was, if I'm here in town, where people told me the hurt you from over here, be the right place to speak, maybe we can take something out from his lifetime. And it's not Divre Hesped. Divre Hesped is after a person is nifter. Pasha to go over some points, maybe to learn something from it and strike from it, and it should be the Elis, who's in Shana. You have to remember that he was a regular American kid born in America. He didn't come from Europe, he didn't learn in Europe. Like many other Gedolim from America, they went to learn in Europe. He was a regular Yankee, and he was born in America, and he went to school. I remember driving him from Muncie to Borough Park. He would say to me, my name is Velvel, I was a regular kid. We used to play hooky right over here. Every time we passed the same place in the FBI, he says, this was the place. Mokum Kavoy, he said. I was like everybody else, we skipped class, we learned class. But one thing he said, I never got less than 100 on the test. That I wanted shleimus, I wanted completion, everything, not Hebrew, not English. There was no such a thing. And he gave me a simmer and said, whoever is successful in Lashon Kodesh, is also successful in English. This is Adam Hashem. He was very straight, he was an ish emes. And that's one of the biggest miles that he had. He was very emes within everything. There was not such a thing as halfway, this way, that way. I remember one time, it was before Pesach, and we didn't have enough money. We're talking about 50 years ago, enough money for Pesach. So me being 17 years old, I felt I was smarter than him. And I told him, have an eight, so you have smoking money, you collect it from the shpachas, take for yourself. He says, what? You have to teach me how to have money for Pesach? I said, what's the problem? He says, my stock is 100% pure. I collected it for other people, not for us. Not for us, not for our family. How can I take even one penny from it? The time didn't take from me. A few years later, I got married. I was out of a job, and it came Pesach time. So I figured I'll call him and tell him, listen, you collect the money for Pesach, and so I went over to the house. He says, it's stacks of money on the table. Not for us. It's not for the Brevdas. I didn't collect it for us. I said, can I send a friend over? He said, what's his matzah? He says, yeah, he's a friend of mine. He works with me together. He doesn't have money. Sure, you can send him over. Came over half an hour later, and this story is about 40 years ago. He gave me $4,000 in cash on the spot. He was very straight, very, very. As a child, he was also that way, he says. He was also that way as a child. He went to school like everybody else. He had a mazel that his father, those days, 100 years ago, was a Shlomo Shabbos. Came from Baranovich. He was a Shlomo Shabbos. And because he was a Shlomo Shabbos, he was zeicher to become a Rebbe in Crown Heights Yeshiva. Hashem paid it back right away. As my father used to say, he used to daven in the Shul, that it had 820 misparim in those days. So Ashkona Minyan Shabbos had 800 people daven there. The second Minyan, 820 Minyan, had 20 people. And his father used to tell him on the way to Shul, Zog Mishkut Shabbos to the Chavah, don't say your Shabbos now. On the other hand, his father always told him to greet everybody. So he had covered for his father. They never asked him why. He said, he became older, he says, I realized these guys are going to work right now. And they all came back for the Shia before Mincha and Shabbos who did the Shabbos. And a lot of them knew Shas Balpeh and Pais Balpeh and everything Balpeh. We can't judge those people. But he was lucky that his father was stuck in Shem Shabbos, which made it easier for him to become what he is. And he decided as a kid, in a very young age, that he wants to dedicate his life to Torah. He wants to dedicate his life to Torah. Unlike everybody else, he says that Zionism was very, very strong those days. And he used to pull the good kids away from Ehrlichkeit. It was even stronger than today, he says. And you had to mamish fight for it. Day and night fight to remain mamish from and not to become Marv Chas V'Shalom. And his father taught him whatever he can teach him. But Midvina Shvi, half his class went Shem Shabbos. And they had to play with him. So as a kid, he brainwashed himself, I'm playing with them, but I'm not going to become like them. And the question is, where did he get this strength from? Where did he get this strength from? So I'll answer that in a second. Well, first I'll tell you a story what happened with him in 7th grade. In the 7th grade, they called Rav Hutner, that's how they come and test the kids. Give them for half. And they told Rav Hutner, this and this kid sitting on that side of the class, second row, his father supports most of the yeshiva. And this kid has a very good head. Trying to ask him most of the questions. And Rav Hutner and him, there was a dialogue. The other kid was sitting there listening, happy. Rav Hutner didn't ask him any questions. And the kid knew everything. They were able to answer him. So my father said, Barabbim, he says, I was jealous of the kid that whatever Rav Hutner asks him, he knows. And I wanted Rav Hutner to ask me a question also to show it's 7th grade that I know this stuff. And I made a deal with Hashem right there and then. What was the deal? At 7th grade. That as Hashem, the kid shouldn't have an answer to one of the questions from Rav Hutner. And I'll be privileged in the Shemayim to answer that question. I'll dedicate my life to Torah. At 7th grade, he had these asogas. How did he have these asogas? Torah, 7th grade kid, from the best families even today. 7th grade to dedicate life to Torah. So the secret behind it is, and you can all use this, even if this the only outcome is this, it's kedai to come to listen to this. His father, as I said, was a Malamed Agate, was a Rebbe. And he was an extremely patient person. One of the things he did was he gave bar mitzvah lessons. And there was a deaf kid that came to him for bar mitzvah lessons. He taught him the whole parsha without Torah, and the kid didn't make one mistake. So somebody asked him, how do you manage? The kid is deaf. He said, if you have patience, nobody's deaf. If you have patience. And in his class, brother, there's not one person that went in his class, some males, some females, that didn't become Shem Shabbos. I'm not saying they were yeshivish. Whoever went in his classes, Yadua, that he gave over his Varmkeit and Yiddishkeit to them in a way that over the years, whoever went through his class remained Shem Shabbos, which is a pella. There's a lady in Yisrael who's lived there recently, was 100 and something years old. Her sons are in Bnei Brak, some of the biggest gedolim in Rosh Yeshivas. She was in that class, by the way. People wonder, look at her, look where she lived. Somebody came to ask me, do you know this? I said, so rings a bell. So I asked somebody, yeah. She was in her grandfather's class. They were able to give it over. So my grandfather knew what America was all about. And he knew that that episode that his kids should be from Erlich, Shem Shabbos, Talmud Chachamim. Every night he sent a bedtime story, like everybody else. He used to take my father, put him on his lap since he was a little kid, fill his bar mitzvah, and tell him the same story every night. Same story every night, with the Gishmak. Hashem created the world. The whole thing. Suddenly, Avraham Avinu, the first meet with grandchildren of Avraham Avinu, with a big yichus. Wow! And he described who Avraham Avinu was, and who Avraham Avinu was. He described Kibshan Eish, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, even to the fire. V'chulu, v'chulu, v'chulu. He went on to Yitzchak Avinu. Went on to Yaakov Avinu, to Yosef in Mitzrayim. Every night the same story for 13 years, come on, for 10 years. It started 3 years old. And the Marcus, Yamsuf, Michal Samolek. And the highlight of the story was every night how the Yidden came to Mamre Har Sinai. And there were fireworks. And the Malachim came down and put crowns on the Yidden. The whole Geschmack, my father knew is one thing. If I can get that Torah from Har Sinai, I don't need more than my life. He didn't have a Disneyland or all the other things. He only heard one thing from his father. That the highlight of the Yid is Matan Torah. So he had the koyach in 7th grade to be jealous of the other kid and make a deal with Hashem right there and then that he is ready to give up his life, American life, and he knew what it was all about. It wasn't different than anybody else. He said in gym he would get 100 every time. He used to get the grades on it. And dedicate his life to Torah because his father taught him there's only one thing in the world that's important. Not vacations and not cars and not what his neighbors, as he told me, I remember there was a goysis in his building, a Yid. And he said, please, 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 take me down there with the television to the Goldbergs before you see us Neshama. This is important to him. He said, Amaitzu Shahoya. That's what's important. And he knew these things are now important, especially not every TV. My grandmother did own a shake in those days, which was a Chiddush Nifna, that she owned it. And he knew one thing, Torah. The geschmack, the excitement is only Torah. And this gave him the koyach right there and then to decide, I'm dedicating my life to Torah. And Baruch Hashem, it wasn't easy for him. It was humps and bumps. And Hashem, when he finished high school, and he had what Brevda as a Rebbe, and he took him aside, he said, college don't miss. Sinish. But he was afraid of his job also. He couldn't, was a mitzvah kochonim, it wasn't fair with us. And he walked in him, but Vina Shvi, they all registered in college, entire place, even though 4 Bochum ended up not going. But Breslau was there for months and a few others. And the school year started after Rosh Hashanah that year. And that was the year when the Mir Yeshiva came to America. And living in the building was a mirror there. So he said, Shlemke, what are you doing, Elul? I'm getting ready for college. What do you want to do? Elul! It was a mirror. Don't scream at him, but Elul! He didn't know what the guy got excited about Elul. He said, maybe you come to mirror for Elul. He says, what am I going to do? You learn. Only for Elul? Only for Elul. His parents agreed. Elul, he's going to mirror. He went there, and he looked at them, the seriousness they had. He says, what's wrong with these guys? They're down, they cried, and this. He never saw this in America. He never saw such a thing in America. But he had close attention to it, and he looked at them, and he said, he wasn't ready to join them. The Mashgiach ignored them on purpose. The Mekane Julikes, Avois. He didn't want to have anything with the Americans. The Mashgiach Kapchatzki didn't want to have anything to do with them. He came close to Slichas, and it became more serious. Kapchatzki used to give a shmooze those days, I think 2 or 3 times a week. Each time was 3 hours, and the whole yeshiva stood for 3 hours in the hats and jackets. Imagine a Mashgiach wouldn't do it today, he wouldn't have a job left. 3 hours, and he took him Doyle Torah with there. He joined them, he spoke Yiddish, even though his father spoke Yiddish, he spoke Yiddish, understood everything. And then came Slichas, and these guys were screaming about him, crying. He says, they went through the war with it in America. What's wrong with it? He didn't understand what they're lacking. What's that from Azoi Vayman? He started asking one and one, we started explaining to him, Slichas, does. Says, came on Shoshana, he said, I can't tell you what I saw there, because people are going to laugh the way I looked at it. I says to me, truly, he says, was unbelievable. He stayed in Yeshiva, even though the college started already. Yom Kippur, he never saw me talk this in his life. But he paid close attention to understand what are these people yearning for. And they explained to him, that's all they want in life. Like he wanted to, he knew Torah, nobody taught him anything else, and the schools are not going to teach these things. And this is how he steigt. And he wanted the Mashiach to give a shmuz to the American government. So he decided he's becoming close to the Mashiach. Mashiach told him, you speak English, I would like you to come every morning to me and tell me the news. Say that. Told him the news every day. One day there was a baseball player, I don't have to mention his name in Mesmedrash, that a pagan, he died. So Mashiach says, he explained to him how it works, and alle Sachen explained to him, detailed. And Mashiach didn't have, so he explained again and again and again. Next day, in Talson's film, Mashiach turned around after the evening, and he started crying, Oi, man, verloch my grace, he made mamish with some Avodah for an hour with his Talson's film. And then he realized this whole thing is, what's baseball? He said, what is it? A ball here, people make money, what do I have from it? And he started realizing that there's a different life, different culture than American culture that he was used to, and there's a place to steig in Ruchnius. And as the more a person tries, the more you become closer to Hashem, you feel the geschmack more and more the whole time. And that's how he continued on till Chanukah time. He finally told Mashiach, you have to give us a shmuz. For the 6 Makana, ichs. He said, yeah, for the 6 or 7, I forgot what it was. Mashiach didn't want to look at them. They were Americans. He knew what he was up against. So he told them to go into a dark room. And they sat down. Eventually Mashiach walked in, stood in the front. He's not talking. He says, we felt like he's going to explode on us. We didn't know what was going to happen with us. But Mashiach was Ish Kodesh, they saw the way down and learned and everything else. Eventually he said, no, Makana Bochrim, Aleph Beis Kantinish. I have to give you a shmuz. What do you know? You're Americans. You know Masechtas Balpeh, like the rest of the yeshiva. The kids had made him feel guilty. And he walked out there to the whole thing. I'm finished with you guys. But my father said, it was there in his heart. It pulled him to the Mashiach. And he went to the Mashiach and he said, no, not me. I want to be part of the yeshiva. I want to have shaykhs with you. And I want to be close with you. Close to you. It was a chiddush, not one American bacher. And he became closer and closer, but he had to work very hard for it. The Mashiach didn't allow him to do it. He didn't allow him to do it. He didn't want Americans. And for good reason. It was a different day and night between the Americans and the Nero Elam, who became Shishivas and everything else eventually. Some of them were 40s, 50 years old. They weren't youngsters at his age. And he fought and fought and fought and fought and fought. Then Mashiach got up one day and says, in America, can ich wachsen Torah? Torah can't go in America. I am going to Eretz Yisrael. There was one person that went with him to the boat. It was my father's father, brother. And to show his anger, when the boat took off, he turned his back. And he waved him like, tell them I turned my back to these guys who didn't come to love me to the boat. And he went to Eretz Yisrael. My father went to Leib, to a barn. The barn was very happy with my father, and we once asked him if he can write one of the shir. And the barn shir was very intense. I learned by Shlomo since I heard about it. And he used to tell us in the Pilpul shir for an hour what the barn said in 2 minutes of his Pilpul shir every week. And his Pilpul shir took us 7 hours to chazan, I'm talking us and the Bachim, to understand the 2 minutes. And when I went over to my father, Ken schreiben the shir, He says, yeah. He had a beautiful handwriting, just like an artist. He was an artist. Everything was straight. The times before they had invitations, people used to go to him and give him a shekel or a dollar, whatever it was, to write an invitation for him. He looked like a printer. Because everything with him was glatt and straight. There was no kutchka, no nothing. And I remember 10 years ago, they used to sell his letters for $1,000. It was so beautiful, it was so nice. And he wrote it in 3 pages. And we looked at it and said, in Europe we did a bochum like this. We did a bochum in Europe. How can you write a whole shir in 3 pages? There's nothing missing. So a few days later, he went over to him again. He asked him to write another shir. Or a few weeks later, and he was amazed. And Mohan read it, he went outside, he told someone the whole way, Der Malkana, what I'm right to cook, a resign from the Groise, and be one of the biggest in Klal Yisrael. So how do you know? He said, I see the way he writes. I see the way he writes. I mean, it all came from Yunus Amos. If he didn't understand something, he wouldn't write it. His whole thing is straight, yashus, straight, not to cheat anybody, not even independent. Yashus, learning, he used to tell me, people think that since Pascal asked him to speak with Moria Da'ilam, ich kann nicht gelernt das. So he made sure on Yom Tov, in Mincha Mara, people used to ask him to speak places, and he always spoke Lambdas. But he built it very, he had a half an hour to speak an hour, very slowly, started from Rashi. And much the brisk way of learning. They till the mountain. He showed the steers, and then it came with a mahalach to fanfare. But it's easy for 8 and 10-year-old kids. I remember sitting in Leib, where we lived at the time, and little kids don't understand what he says, and older people understand. He explained it in a way, very clearly, because he knew it clearly. When he decided to become a Ben Torah, it wasn't just, yeah, I'll be a Ben Torah. This was his life. He didn't need anything else in his life. Money wasn't important to him now. Even money for his stockers was hundreds of thousands of dollars a year. He used to give him kvetlach and the money with it. He used to say to him, no, that's not for me. If money you give him to tzedakah. He says, how do you know? I give it to tzedakah. I see there in shores. I said, maybe it's a koyach tefillah. He said, I have a koyach tefillah. I wanted to tell numerous stories, but I don't want to be chutz with him at all. But what should I tell me? He dedicated the mom because he immersed himself in Torah. Nothing was. I remember I was home one day, and a big check came from the lawyer. It's double. And he opened it up. I don't know what it was, thousands of pounds. I mean, we lived in England because he wasn't well. He ripped it up to pieces. He called up somebody, and he told them, take it back to him right now, and tell him what he did 3 weeks ago in that place. Learned from the father, you shouldn't come. I'm not a priest. You shouldn't send me thousands of pounds for kapara afterwards. I don't need this money. We took in those days thousands of pounds. Rent in England was that $1 a pound a week. He got thousands. He didn't have a problem telling him, I don't need you, don't come to me. I remember sitting in the Shea and Bar Park. The full Divre used to give him checks every week for stuffers. For stuffers. And one of them was there already 3.5 years. He gave a whole sheet for about an hour. Now he doesn't stick to Gevim because he doesn't know the cheshiv. He doesn't understand the cheshiv is money. He understands the cheshiv is different. Money doesn't mean anything. And even though the full Gevim sitting here, that's what he said. And they support my stockers tremendously. And he gave stockers to people that you can't imagine. You don't need hisorerus with him money. Nobody knows who it is. You're never allowed us to talk about it. But more than 4 years, they're not going to come. And there's one here that's going to come for another half a year. And the guy got up and he gave him a big check afterwards. I couldn't believe it. Because he came with the Amos. He came with the Amos. I wanted to know what the check was, but I couldn't sneak in and see what it is. But I know I saw him writing it out with the simcha, like, I'm going to put it in this place. He says, I take it because it's not for me. It's from Shlomo and tzaddikim and all kinds of things. But the Gdolim Yisrael were tremendously.
Nice with the Biscarov.
No, it's nice with the stipend. When I was a little younger, we used to live in Brevda with HaRav. Across the street from the stipend. Down the block was Khan Kanevsky. They were when we were little kids. So in the morning, Shabbos in the morning, used to send us to Shabbos house to play. And in the afternoon, it's still a Chaim's house. That was our Shabbos as little kids. So I saw people, I was in America, I came back and people going, what are they going to? Let's start my son, I'm also going, for what's the mission? I used to go in and say, come out. You can't come out. What's he doing? I'm learning. I have an emergency. There's no emergency, my name is Brevda. Not least say the word Brevda. He thought it was my father, but I didn't learn that many times. I had emergencies, people used to call me and ask me to ask him certain things. If my father ever came, and he saw me at the door, closed the door, Reb Shlomo, kommt herein, he spoke in a Russian Yiddish. Reb Shlomo, kommt herein. Kids, I was 19 years old, and my brother got married in Thomas. Chodesh Av, I owned a day camp in Muncie. It's important for the story. So I went to say, I went to the sniper. So I told him that with Yankin Greenwood from Muncie, known as Dr. Greenwood, who used to sponsor his farm, he wants me to bring back a few sets. In those days, you couldn't get a whole set of Prince Yankin. It wasn't Shaykh and Tzias. He used to ask you, you learn Gan Shas, you learn the whole Shas, you need the whole set. And he didn't give a set. But since the Yankin Greenwood sponsored his farm, so he used to send him sets to give his bar mitzvah gifts. Because nobody else was able to compete with such a mitzvah gift. You couldn't get it, wasn't mitzvahs. So I went one time to him and said, he wants 3 sets and I need one for myself. You learn Gan Shas? I said, I want to make a deal with this guy. If you give me a set for myself, I take the 3 sets he wants also. He says, Reb Shlomo's Azun. I don't know what you're doing, Reb Shlomo's son. Okay. So I took it, I put it on the table, I picked it up. Nay. I said, well, what am I doing wrong now? There's nobody home. He says, you have been Torah. You're your father's son. You can't walk in the streets farting like this. I said, so what am I going to do? We are going to find brown paper and rope. I'm going to tie it up. I'm going to walk out like a Torah like this. There was nobody home. Sometimes they had anything to help me. I said, can I help? Zetzachave, Alain. He didn't let, the disciple never allowed anybody to help him. Everything he had to do himself. He was afraid in Oil Haba, he was going to pay back. The kids took 45 minutes. He found a small piece of bond paper, scratched them together. He found some string, there was a package, opened it up, knotted it. I said, I don't need it, I live across the street. Reb Shlomo's Azun, he can't go to the street like this. It's so much of my father. Unbelievable. Now, I didn't think he was going to give me a set, man, even though I was going to be a little harsh with him. So I didn't make money with me. So I'm about to go, who is the geld for our set? I said, I'm going across the street. No. Put it down. I said, what? If you forget to bring me the money, means I'm going to come from there again for 70 years over here. It's not going to happen. I said, I'm telling you, I didn't say, I'm going to bring the money. How much was it? Should I finish? That's what you packed it up with. Yeah, I said, cover that table. I said. The kid said, he made a deal with me. He almost gave me a handshake. And if I forget to give him the money, I come down here to his Yoshim. He's not coming down. Next morning, I got up early. I'm not going to go. I wanted to finish it. Okay, a few days later, I wanted to go back. So this firm I had, my own set I had. I'm not telling you I use all the volumes, but I had it at least. And people used to come and, how did you get a whole set? It's not the kids. And I tell them, I want to say goodbye. I have a flight tonight to America. He says to me in Yiddish, you're fortnish, you're not traveling. Excuse me, I have a day camp coming up, making money. Like what kind of, this summer in America, year for nit. know what to do. Because he says, you're not going. Whatever came and stuck in his mouth was Mekuyim. Signed the toiv and I didn't. I was afraid the plane was going to fall down. So I started negotiating with him. And nothing helped. So I said to him, what's the point of this? He said, you are going to live in Eretz Yisrael. I said, to be honest with you, I don't like Israelis. I told him the truth. I don't like Israelis. I prefer Americans. He took his hand on his beard, waved it like this 3 times. Bocharol, Bocharol. Remember what the old man with the white beard told you? When he waved his beard at you like this 3 times, you are going to live in Eretz Yisrael. Okay, we got over that hurdle. I said, then where's my shidduch? In America or in Eretz Yisrael? You remain tazich reis? You think I know? I said, yes! And he says, you are right. It's in America. And you're standing here. You're not going there. You're standing here. It was getting closer and closer to the flight, and I knew that Panos is Panos in America, and back and forth, back and forth. I said, can I ask you a serious question? Yeah. The Rav is telling me not to go. My father did not want me to learn Yisrael. He never told me why. He said, either you and my father, who did I listen to? Reb Shlomo? I'm about to my das, take the next flight. That's how much he held of him. I'm about to my das, whatever I... But remember, he says, where this beard again? You are going to live in Yisrael. But to go back, your father wants to go. I'm about, whatever Reb Shlomo says, I'm about to my das. They were very close, these two. And the stipler was involved in my father's stockers. He did stockers very good after he got married. And one time, one of the organizations, UJA, whatever it was, they came to Yisrael. They were giving out $300, $500, $5,000, everybody, any organization. So my father went to the stipler and told him, these guys don't speak English. I speak English. I'm sure to ask for this. And these trade for money. He says, what's that? I'm involved in Yud Stockers. I could be made that Yud Stockers is the only stock in the world, Kimat, which is 100% straight. He says, what do you mean? Somebody has a kohen. One person comes one time in 50 years that has a late, it's Zayd. And he gave him a lot of these examples. Nobody realizes 100% straight stock on the stocker. You're the only one in the world that I know that's 100% straight. You can go there and speak English and whatever. They're not going to give you a penny. Because they don't have the schus to give tzedakah to a kosher place. A little trefa, okay, they can give whatever they want. 100% they just can't even go. But the fact he was in Bachman's Das, he had stories like this with the Rav Shach. And other Gedolim, Shlomo said, I remember I lived in England. We used to go to Gateshead for Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. We used to stay by Matasio, Zechat Tzaddik, and Kodesh Le'Gochet. And Matasio used to daven Musaf. Matasio's Musaf, we were able to hear 2 blocks away. He put his own energy in Musaf. And his son told me, he once asked his father, how do you have such a long meal for Rosh Hashanah night? You have to sleep, you have to be correct for tomorrow. He said, you know what, where it is? He said, I hear the conversation. Do you know how deep he is? Do you know how deep? He says, it's kedai for me to be tired by Musaf tomorrow and chaparai and ashram the whole time. A lot of Gedolim said beautiful things about him. I'll tell you a story about the Brisker Rav. Now, first I'll tell you something else, a short story. Eventually, when they put me in the Shraga, he came to visit me. Short story. We woke out, it was a snowy day. And he slips him up, the floor and goes flying. Quick to help him get up. He said, do you know why he slipped? I said, yeah, because it's snowy, it's slippery. Während always going to learn, who did these shlokas? I said, why else did he slip? When you study, you want to slip? No! I didn't know what I never heard anything like this. He said, the Gemara says, if you go to this English, I'll give some psi gaso. You shouldn't walk a big step. Hashem wanted to show me that even I took little steps on the snow, but it's considered big steps, that's why I slipped. So from now on, if I ever go to the snow, I know to take small steps. Everything for him was with the Musa Haskell. He learned from it. He tried to give it over to us. He made a lot of jokes in Shul, but he paid it sometimes to wake up the oil. The Shitaget Shatalan. He never gave a Musa a Shia Kemat. Besides one son of his life, Stam Groshim and stories. Remember in Barapat, let's say Shabbos, he used to have a full house. He said, Rabbi, some of you I see that look on your face when I say certain things like, ow, as if I'm stabbing you in the back. I am, but it doesn't matter. He says, you think I can't talk nicely? Advertise for next week is only stories and Midrashim. Nothing else. And then next week we couldn't get it. I'm telling you, we couldn't get him. And he started with these stories for an hour and a half. Don't worry, he made up for it less than half an hour, he made up for it. And he said, I wanted to show you, it's not that I don't know the stories, I can't talk like other people, make it sweet, but what are you going to get out of it? What do you get? What's going to be the nice thing? We'll finish off with this guy, Hashem. I don't want to keep the island so long. They went overtime over here. This story you won't find in the book that came out of him. And it just comes to show you where he got to with his Messias Nefesh for Torah. Eventually, by Aaron, he wrote to the Chatzkel and the Shkiach a few letters, but without him he can't learn. You can't learn without him. So Aaron helped him, and Aaron wrote him that Tzavor, and one person should write the Mishnah Aaron, it was him. In 1964-65, the Pshnei came, the living men with boxes of stuff. He said, this is a Tzavor, you should write it. My father said, I'm writing Purusha Agro, and Aaron is very deep. I can't write, it's not made for one person. And I see that it's still today that groups of being like writing down stories. He couldn't do it. So he wrote letters to the Chatzkel. And eventually the Chatzkel told him, yeah, okay, you can come to learn. He wrote another letter to the Yeshiva, it needs a bed. There's no beds there. At least accept me. And he got a better bed, but accept him better, he can come. Those days, people went by boat. He went on a boat, they almost saw it twice. He said twice, he said really, he knew it was the end. And one time, when he was on the boat, the Bocha went home to the Chatzkel. He said, look, the 13 Bocha in the rear, and I know today they can't compare. I need a chavrusa. I hear there's somebody from America coming, his name is Shlomo Brevda. So I'll have a chavrusa. He says, who? I said, Shlomo Brevda. He's coming? I mean, it's after he got the letters and accepted them. He's coming? He said in Yiddish, I don't see he's coming. Bocha waited a few minutes, went to the Chatzkel again. So I don't know what to tell you. The Bocha wrote down the story. It didn't make sense, because everybody knew he was coming. He went allowed to bring in food to Etzisol those days, and he was Meister Nefesh about 200 packages for 200 mishlochas. And he said it's kedai for me to sit in jail by 200 families and have what to eat for a while. And he wrote an exact time and date, and the Chatzkel said it. Eventually became his chavrusa. You're right, became his chavrusa. He became hench with him. He said a few weeks ago, this day and this time, what happened? My father told me what. Bocha says, you okay? He couldn't talk. He says, what? What happened? He says, it was the second time I said Divre, and they both were singing fast, singing like this. And he looked at the watch. That time, suddenly it went straight, it went up, and it went 70. When Chatzkel said, I don't see this coming yet, there was a tefillah to the Borei Olam that he should come. And Chatzkel used to hide things sometimes when he spoke. So eventually he got there, and Chatzkel told him, listen, you have to be close to the Gdol Yisrael. Just Rav, Chazanish, and he gave him a whole list. Those days to go from Yerushalayim to Brevda, there was no Kvish Achad, it takes 45 minutes or an hour, or 25 minutes if you're Israeli, and it took 4 hours each way. Okay, he went to the Chazanish the first time, he walked in, he says, what's your name? He says, Shlomo Brevda from America. The Mekana Bocha, because he knew the American Bocha. Chazanish didn't know his name, they knew he's the American Bocha. He told him a shtickle Torah, which is printed recently someplace, in two Musamaisis. Chazanish sat there, smiled. Didn't interrupt him once. It was a long shtickle Torah, like the rest of his drushes. And Chashan listened and smiled. He couldn't believe it. When he finished, Chazon got up, hugged him and kissed him for 3 minutes, and told him, "You can stay to be my chavrusa 2 stars a day, whichever two you choose." Ma'aser Shoya. He was like, "Yi Chazanish, So at that time, he was in Yitzhak for a few weeks already, and he tried to convince the Briskerov to open Brisk. Not off press where Roman Shah's yeshiva today. And the Briskerov gave him a run for his money, and he could have Brisk. And he didn't want it. I got some nicer. So my father told Chazanish, "I'm asking him to come right now to Leib. Do me a favor. Please speak to the Briskerov and explain to him that the reason why I'm not continuing with this idea of the Rav opening the yeshiva, because I'm doing with you b'chavusa." Chazanish was a very gentle person. This Rav was a little tougher. Lashon Dekiya. So Chazanish turns to him, he thinks, he says, "Tu ma'ateva, do me a favor. Please go and learn by the Briskerov. I don't want to start out with him." That's the only reason why I didn't stay by Chazanish to learn with him. But for one shtickle Torah, the Chazanish at Ruach HaKodesh, it's known. He was able to look and see him that he was great. And his learning was straight. To offer him 2 stars a day, Chazanish didn't have a chavrusa in Yitzhak. But his Messias Nefesh helped for it. Let's finish off how I convinced this girl very shortly. You see, time is getting late. I'm sorry, I'm Esau from Mechila. He went to the Briskerov every day for a year, Kamat, and spoke to him alone for an hour. If you didn't know one Rishon or one Achim, this girl would yell at you, "Come to waste my time. You think I'm a little kid? You think I have time for you?" So he prepared 9 hours a day. 9 hours a day prepared to speak to the Briskerov this 1 hour learning. He got her yelling sometimes, but mostly not. 9 hours a day, just prepared for this 1 hour. Eventually, the Briskerov saw that he had a curse of toy for us, because when he was in Poland, when he ran away in the war, he stayed on the 3rd floor. And one time, Shabbos morning, he says, "Oi!" We had a grandfather who lived on the bottom floor. "The Briskerov, what's kracht's here? What's he like?" He woke up, "So come live by me." He stayed there, and never went out again. So he had some curse of toy to our family. And he spoke to him, learning. One day he tells my father, "Come and listen this time. We'll see what to do about the issue. After a year, we'll see what to do about the issue." He came. He said, "I'm going to discuss things with you. In your lifetime, you can never divulge to anybody what has been spoken about." My father never spoken about. He came. There was a fall. This son was in the room. He said, "The fall." The told him, "Go out, close the door, and don't listen in when I'm going to talk to this person." You're that risk. Nobody knows what they spoke to each other. And this girl kept on telling my father this whole year, "You're a kind of bluffer, you're a kind of American liar. How can I open a yeshiva with such a book as an American? You're a liar, you're a cheater, you're..." So after he spoke to him, whatever he spoke to, nobody knows what it is. They were sitting by the table, corner of the table, the scroll was sitting here and he's sitting here. He says, "Come closer to me." He opened his sharp eyes, and his nose was touching his nose for 20 minutes. My father said, "I wish I would have been koyach falling to the ground then." She said, the fear from this girl was so great. And he kept on saying, "Don't kind of bluffer. My father couldn't answer what she answered. He's not. So in about 20 minutes, he said, "You got it. I'm going to open the sheet for you. I see you're not a girl. Not the rest of the Americans." The Maisi became a ben biased there, and any monies that came to Briskerov, we asked my father to verify if it was Shem Shabbos or not. They wouldn't take money from Holiday Shabbos. People used to send him $100 bills and $1,000 and $10,000. He had a whole cabinet of I don't know how much money they cash. And he left it small. This whole cabinet, after the shiva, all the kids would stand there, tear up all the bills, and put it down in the bed. It shouldn't be a zeichavi, because it came from Holiday Shabbos. And he had shimush for him day and night, and a lot of the stories they say about this rough kach and kach and kach. He was Zoicha because he was there himself. He was there himself. So the limit we can try to take out little Shmosai, today was the Yartziet, is number one, to teach the kids and teach ourselves that the only thing important is Torah. The only thing is not covered, not big events, lunch. The only thing important is Torah. And if we teach our kids that, we could be assured we'll all have a lot of nachas from him, and then show them have an aliyah from our own kids, and show them to have an aliyah from this. Even one person gets inspired, and one kid becomes Efes HaAmen Shabbat, and finishes a Masechta, it's unbelievable schus in Hashem. And Hashem should help us, the Korev, we should be Zoichet, to meet Mashiach Tzidkein, and Meher, and Meher.